Red Glass by Laura Rousseau, Part 5, Path to the Moon. Here is my secret. It's quite simple. One sees clearly only with the heart. Anything essential is invisible to the eyes. Anything essential is invisible to the eyes, the little prince repeated in order to remember. Chapter 16, Unforeseen Journey. 3 more times Abuelita threw the corn, and each time it said the same. Always blood, sharp things, heavy things. Dika pushed it. But what kind of things, comadre? Is it Mr. Lorenzo or Angel? Was it an accident? Are they coming back? Abuelita said the corn gave her no more details, only the glass, the wood, the metal, the blood. Abuelita, I said. I hugged my knees and shivered in my cotton nightgown. Can you ask the corn another question? Can you ask if Angel found his mother? I tried not to look at Dika, but I felt her eyes on me. Dika said to me in English, in a low, hurt voice, "You think this is reason they don't come?" I don't know, Dika. Maybe. I mean, they never found her body. Dika put her hand over her heaving chest, took a deep breath, and said to Abuelita, "Comadre, please throw the corn again." Abuelita chanted a few minutes with her eyes closed and finally tossed the corn onto the table. She examined it, moving her fingers over it lightly, and then looked at us, her face solemn. Angel has not found his mother yet, but he will. A moment of shock. Dika pressed her lips together. In Spanish, she whispered, "If his wife is alive, he should be with his wife." Then she lay down on her mattress and stared at the ceiling. After Abuelita put away her tin of corn and copal, she settled next to Dika and stroked her forehead. I wished someone were stroking my forehead. Just before sunrise, Abuelita and Dika had finally fallen asleep. Next to Nola, I was trying to breathe deeply so that sleep would come. Suddenly, Nola said my name. "Sophie!" Maybe I'd imagined it. Did she know my name? I stared at her small, wrinkled face on the pillow, her white braids spread out like wings. Her mouth moved. "Sophie." Then she said the same phrase she'd said while handing me the Queen of the Night flower. "Kua nanda kuve." I don't understand Mixteco, Nola. "Kua nanda kuve," she said again. "Kua nanda kuve," I repeated. She nodded and laughed. And then just as suddenly fell back asleep. I repeated the phrase like a mantra in my head until finally I slept. I woke up to Pablo bouncing on the mattress. "Sophie, wake up!" I opened my eyes. Light streamed through the flowered curtains. Nola was gone, probably lying outside somewhere. Abuelita and Dika's mattress was empty. "What, Pablo?" I groaned. "Wake up!" "Why?" A rush of excitement. "Is Angel here?" "No, but it's breakfast time. You slept late." I propped myself onto my elbows and held his hands, which were already grimy from playing outside. "Hey, Principito, what does this mean? Kua nanda kuve?" "I don't know, Mixteco." "You understand it. Abuelita and Nola speak Mixteco to you sometimes. Come on, what does Kuanandakuve mean? Bueno, Kuanandakuve. It's like when my dad was in the field and it was time for lunch, and Abuelita says, Kuanandakuve. Then I have to go tell him to come back. So what does it mean, Pablo? Go. Go find him. All morning long, the words echoed in my head. Kuanandakuve. Go find him. The phone call came that evening when the sun had nearly sunk from sight. Dika and I were washing dishes outside, and my hands were red and raw from the harsh soap, cold in the evening air. Go find him, I heard in the lyrics of every song. Over the loudspeaker, the music stopped, and a voice came on. Phone call for Senora Dika and Senorita Sofia. We dropped the dishes, and without even rinsing the soap off our hands, we ran. Dika could run only about 5 paces before gasping for breath and doubling over, clutching her belly. I ran ahead, taking long strides in my sandals, my feet pounding the ground. When I was nearly there, a scream rose over the music. Sophie! It was Dika. Something was wrong. I sprinted back along the path and found her struggling to stand. I knelt beside her. Are you okay? My leg, she muttered. I tripped this damn tree root. Is it broken? The skin on her ankle was scraped pink and bleeding. It was the same ankle she'd hurt climbing out of the pool the day she seduced Mr. Lorenzo. We see, she said. Now help me to stand. We must talk with my boyfriend. I held my arms around her waist as she limped down the path. A few minutes later, breathless, we reached the shop with the phone. He'll call back in 10 minutes, the lady said. Dika plopped onto the bench, huffing and rubbing her ankle while I paced the wooden floor watching the phone. When it rang, I snatched it up. Bueno? Sophie, Mr. Lorenzo said. Where are you? Buenas tardes, Sophie, Mr. Lorenzo said. Can I speak with your aunt? What's going on? Are you coming back? I tried to make my voice calm. Please, just tell me. Mija, something happened to Angel. My legs grew weak. I waited. Heavy things, sharp things, blood. Mr. Lorenzo's voice shook. You know that there is much anger in our tierra since the war. People saw terrible things, and the anger stayed in their hearts. And some of them... Mr. Lorenzo, please! What happened to Angel? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Dika, tears in her eyes. Bueno, he is alive. He cleared his throat, and still his voice shook. That is the important thing. My knees were about to collapse. I sat down on the bench beside Dika. She put her hand on my shoulder. He has been in the hospital for 3 days, Sophie, Mr. Lorenzo said. I couldn't call you sooner because he was unconscious, and I wanted to be there when he woke up. He was quiet for a moment, making little sniffling noises. I clutched the phone. What happened? A gang attacked him one night, stole everything from him. They took his mother's jewels. They beat him and cut him badly. Knives they had, broken bottles, beams of wood. They had too much anger in their hearts. But what? I'm sorry, mija, but I only have enough money to talk for a minute. Listen, the gang stole our money and passports. We can't cross back into Mexico without them. We need you to get our visas and the photocopies of our passports. They're in my bag. Can you send them here? Is that safe to send that through the mail? We have no choice, Sophie. Do you have a pen? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the pen the shopkeeper had given me. I wrote the address of the hospital and then the bank where I was supposed to wire them money. Mr. Lorenzo, I said, will Angel... Mija, listen, the time is nearly... Mr. Lorenzo? No answer. The line was dead. We waited 2 hours for Mr. Lorenzo to call back, then we shuffled home in the dark very slowly, Dika limping at my side. She talked non-stop, moaning and asking me questions. How long will they be there, Sophie? Where is he hurt? They will catch the bad guys, no? Mr. Lorenzo's wife, she lives? My answer was a numb shrug. Nothing mattered except Angel. Back at the house, Abuelita sliced open some fresh aloe leaves, revealing clear slime that she rubbed over Dika's wounds. After examining the ankle, now purple and swollen, Abuelita announced it was only a bad bruise and deep scrape. She said it should heal fine if Dika stayed off it for the next few days. Pablo moved his chair next to Dika during our evening coffee and traced the blue veins of her thighs with his fingers. Sugar from his jam-filled pastry coated his chin like an old man's beard. He must have sensed something was wrong, because he asked in a small, hesitant voice, "Where's Angel and Mr. Lorenzo?" "Oh, they'll just be back later than expected," I said, forcing a smile. "Will Angel bring me the slingshot?" "Yes," my voice cracked. "He will. I just need to send them some papers is all." Dika and I had decided that the next day I'd go to Huajuapan with one of the aunts and stop by the post office and the bank. But the aunts seemed doubtful the mail would arrive safely, especially since the documents were worth a lot on the black market. I left the flickering firelight of the kitchen and went into the bedroom to find the visa and photocopies and extra money to send to Mr. Lorenzo. The room was still and dark, except for moonlight spilling through the window. For a long time, I sat on the mattress and stared at Angel's visa photo. It was a good picture. He looked just on the verge of breaking into a smile with that faint dimple on his left cheek. How hurt was he? Was he still unconscious? How were they paying for food if they barely had enough to make a phone call? What if the documents got lost in the mail? They wouldn't be able to pick up the wired money without picture IDs. They'd be stuck in Guatemala without money. I unfolded the map and traced the route with my finger. Could I bring the documents and money there myself? I'd have to travel alone. Dika wasn't in any shape to travel with her swollen ankle. I could leave the next morning and then have lunch and get food for the ride and take the overnight bus there, just like Mr. Lorenzo's plan. He had said the trip was safe in the daylight, more or less. And once I got there, we could go to the embassy to get new passports or whatever we had to do and then come back together, hopefully all three of us. I stared at the dimple on Angel's left cheek. This wasn't just about getting the visas to them. At the heart of things, Angel needed me. I could feel it. His dreams had taken a beating along with his body, and I was the only one who understood all that he'd lost. I closed Angel's visa with my fingertips toughened by stripping corn and making tortillas. I wondered how strong I was, wondered what Sophie Lafuerte could do.